right, what is going on, my friends? We are live on YouTube and we are getting live on Instagram here. All right, we are live on Instagram. Welcome. What's going on, my friends? Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are all doing well. I wanted to jump on here and talk about the post for today. And if you haven't seen it yet, maybe when you're done with this live, go ahead and get on the latest post. It's the black icon. It has like a carousel, so there's multiple slides in it, and it's very informative around the topic that we will be talking about today, which is a mineral that is essential to preventing hypoglycemia. So really, really important. And I want to give you guys some kind of background information around this mineral as well, or this nutrient, because I think a lot of times it does get like a bad rap, and it's associated with increases in blood pressure, and not to say that there isn't some truth in that, but I think a lot of times it doesn't get the full context, right? Because and I think that's, just social media in general doesn't get the full context, and it's hard to get everything that you would need out of a topic with just social media posts. But nonetheless, the reason why this nutrient is important with hypoglycemia is because it really is crucial for you to go from like managing it with eating healthy and eating a strict meal schedule where you're eating hour by hour or every 2 hours, right? You're cutting out carbs, you're cutting out sugar, you are, living in this very controlling, restrictive way, all in effort to avoid, crashes. For a lot of people, they're eating from scratch. They're afraid to go out to eat because they can't necessarily control obviously the ingredients that are included in there, the food quality. They can't necessarily work out in the way that they would want to because they tend to crash. They tend to have to back off on work or any sort of stressors out of fear that they're going to exacerbate crashes. And when I say crashes, what I mean by that is you feeling more shaky, lightheaded, weak, lethargic, have heart palpitations, mood swings, feeling more hangry, having to eat every few hours to avoid those symptoms. And so you're constantly in this reactive mode, which in itself can be very stressful, right? If you're constantly reacting to something throughout the day versus just preventing it from happening in the first place, those are two totally different energies, right? And it's much easier, it's much less, it's less stressful to prevent it from happening in the first place versus trying to manage it and control everything about a crash. And so what is this mineral? Because we can go in multiple different directions here, of course, and it isn't just the only mineral that's important, but that mineral is sodium, right? And so many times sodium gets a bad rap. Oh, it increases blood pressure. Oh, it's not good for your cardiovascular health, et cetera, right? And I think in large excessive amounts without balance with other nutrients, yeah, there might be some credence to that. But we're talking in the context of hypoglycemia today. And it's a very much needed nutrient for a few different reasons. Number one, it really goes to support adrenal health. And what does that mean? Well, adrenal health is something that keeps, among other things like energy, it keeps our blood sugar from dropping or from crashing, right? It keeps it up at a normal level. So we have a consistent supply of energy to work from, and then therefore don't get symptoms of low blood sugar, right? So it's really, really crucial. Now, if we don't have sodium or enough of the sodium, then ultimately our adrenal health kind of tanks and it's less likely to respond to a blood sugar crash, meaning less likely to kick in extra stress hormones to support us not getting a blood sugar crash, to support us having a consistent supply of energy so these symptoms don't happen, right? So that's really important. Now, number two, the other big reason as a part of this that sodium can be really, really important is because ultimately, when we don't have enough sodium, we don't get what's called like this gradient that allows nutrients to move through from the bloodstream to the cells, basically. And when we don't have that gradient, ultimately we can't move nutrients like glucose into the cell, which is really, really important. And I would say this is probably even more important for those that might check their blood sugar during these times where they're having the crash and they're having the shakiness, the dizziness, the lightheadedness, the weakness, yet their blood sugar looks normal. They check it, and it's like 86 or 99, or even if it's maybe high, like 101, right? Well, the reason why this is happening is not necessarily because you lack enough energy at the blood level, right? It's more so you lack enough energy at the cellular level. And that's what this is referring to, right? And it's invalidating, really, really, because you go to your doctor and they say, oh, your labs look normal, your A1C looks fine, your glucose looks fine, right? But yet, when you experience a crash, it's anything but fine, right? It really is quite debilitating for many people, right? And so, what sodium allows us to do is get consistent access to that energy. So, these symptoms of low energy, which in essence are low blood sugar, heart palpitations, shakiness, dizziness, lightheadedness, all of those are symptoms of low energy, right? But when we can have that consistent source of energy, as in we have enough sodium to facilitate nutrients moving into the cell quickly and efficiently, well, now we don't need to constantly react, control our meals, what we eat throughout the day, because automatically our body has a consistent supply of that energy because of the sodium that's present. So that's huge. The last piece is overall, sodium helps us to regulate stress, right? It helps us to almost, in a sense, take the edge off. So our body is not so much staying in like the sympathetic state, fight or flight kind of state, right? And if we don't have enough, well, then it becomes a little bit more unregulated, meaning our stress response. And when our stress response is more unregulated, that's when the crashes, the hypoglycemia tends to stick. It's the driving force of this ultimately that makes us, eat, we eat healthy, we live a healthy lifestyle, yet we're still experiencing these symptoms. We control every facet of our meals, seemingly every facet of our life, our meal planning, yet we're still having these symptoms. We take the supplements, yet we're still having these symptoms. We go to the doctor, all normal labs, still having the symptoms, right? And so when we can support this, it makes it a lot easier to get out of that hamster wheel type of reaction where, we have this high stress response and it's the driving force of hypoglycemia. And then what it also does too is it wastes some of that sodium, right? And so we'll run tests, one of which is called the HTMA. It's basically like a hair test. And we take a small sample of your hair, and it's representative of the minerals that are in your body at the cellular level. Again, most important area, especially for people with hypoglycemia. And what we'll find is either sodium is really high on these tests, meaning that your body's getting rid of a lot of it, wasting through a lot of it, or we'll see it very low, meaning your body's already been through that process. It's already wasted through a lot of it. And now we're just strictly deficient. We just don't have enough to work with. So we'll see that a lot of times, with our clients. And the high levels aren't because someone is eating a lot of sodium. It's because they're wasting through a lot of it. And there's one analogy that I like to use during this process because this relates to a lot of minerals, including sodium, but it's called my leaky bucket analogy. All right. And so imagine you trying to stabilize your blood sugar is like you trying to fill up a bucket of water, right? Imagine you're filling up this bucket of water, and every time you try to fill it up, it just leaks out the bottom. And then you take a look and there's like holes in the bottom. Like, what do you do? How are you supposed to fill up this bucket? Well, the most important thing whenever we talk about nutrients or minerals is not in essence of how do we get more, because that's often the conversation that I hear from clients is like, oh, I'm low in sodium, but how do I get more? I'm low in magnesium, how do I get more? I'm low in potassium, how do I get more? Right. And that's certainly a part of the conversation, but I think it's less important, especially in this situation, than how can I start plugging those holes in the bottom of that bucket, right? Because if I plug those holes, when I fill up that bucket with water, it actually sticks, it actually holds, and that's when you get the benefits of whatever nutrient that you're taking in, right? And so, looks like my phone is 20%. There we go. Um, but when you plug those holes, now you can get the benefit of that nutrient versus just consuming more. It doesn't necessarily work as well, and that's what we see for a lot of our clients. They're doing a lot of the right things in essence. They might be taking in sodium, but in essence, it's not holding, it's not sticking because the lifestyle that we're living currently is causing us to waste through all of that? And that's, much deeper work, much deeper questions, but it's really important to look at that, especially if you're someone that has had hypoglycemia or currently in the midst of that and feel like you can't control it and you're constantly reacting throughout the day. You're constantly having to micromanage your days, your meals, what you do for work, your exercise, right? And then from there, it just becomes more and more restrictive the more that we're in this. And we've had clients, that have been in the state for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, even, right? And it is reversible. It just takes the right steps in first understanding, okay, why is our body wasting through so much sodium, right? It's asking those why questions because that's when we get to the answer of how do we prevent this, right? So, what is it in our lifestyle and the current way of living that's causing our body to get rid of so much sodium, right? For many people, that's going to be a different answer. For some people, it's literally the way that they're approaching it, right? They're trying to control every single facet of their day, every single facet of their meal. And that in itself can be very, very stressful to the point where now the seemingly beneficial routine is now adding more stress than good, right? For some people, it's a lack of support. For some people, it's lack of fulfillment in a relationship, in a career. For some people, it's lack of fun, lack of hobbies, right? For some people, it might be a combination of all those things, including nutrition, right? But asking that why question is really important because that's when we get the answer of how can we plug those holes? How can we hold on to more sodium so we can actually get the blood sugar stabilizing benefit of that, right? And then the other piece is like, for many people, if they are deficient, they might need to consume a little bit more, right? That's the other 25% of this conversation is you need to consume a little bit more in conjunction with other nutrients, right? So that's what I want to talk about today. I think it's a really important piece that often goes missing in the sodium conversation. I don't think a lot of people are aware of the sodium conversation when it comes to blood sugar stability, but it really is an important one. And so I hope that adds context. If you want to see more on this type of post, just give me a follow on Instagram and YouTube. This is where I go in depth with these topics. I just posted about sodium today, so it can give you a nice summary of kind of our conversation today as well. Now, this is what we work with clients all the time. We do run mineral tests. We do look into your life as well, right? It requires deep work in order to truly fix what's going on, right? It's not like, oh, you get this testing result and you take this supplement. I wish it was that easy and that simple. But frankly, if we look at the supplement industry, a lot of our problems would have been fixed if that's truly something that would help something like hypoglycemia, right? Because many people have already been down that rabbit hole. And it's not to say supplements can't work, but we have to understand, okay, what is the context? What is the lowest hanging fruit? What is the most important piece that is important in your journey? And that takes understanding of you as a person, your life, in order to get to that. And so that's what we do with clients all the time to really resolve their hypoglycemia over the course of 3 to 6 months without cutting out carbs, without relying on medications, without, going on cabinet fulls of supplements to be able to do that. Right. And so if you are ready to do that, please reach out. We'd love to support you. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Hope this was helpful for you guys. And we will tune in for the next live. Talk to you guys later.